This tutorial is concerning entering information about a friend after you've conducted the telephone home visit and after all of the case intake has been entered about the friend. Now you are ready to actually enter information about the details of the friend's situation and offer a pledge or whatever assistance we are going to provide. So you start off at your home screen. When you sign on to CMS, it always goes to your home screen. And in this case, go to your assigned cases and you'll see the case that you'll be working on. If you did the telephone home visit, in all likelihood, you did the case intake. But even if you didn't, you click on the person that you're going to be entering information about. And the first tab is prepare. And this was more helpful when we were making in-home home visits, where you could actually get a case record form to bring with you on the home visit that was based on the intake information that had information about who the friend was, where he lived, what his telephone number, email address, who was in his household, any other information that was put in there. The form unfortunately truncates the description of the request, but it gives you some idea, usually in the first few words, what the needs are. The second page is less important. There's a financial worksheet that sometimes jogs your memory when you're trying to find out major sources of income or major expenses in determining whether the friend can get back on his or her feet and whether our assistance is going to be helpful. This is less important during the pandemic since most people are without an income or at a very reduced income. And the issue is not as much of, are they going to be able to get back on their feet? Most are waiting to find out if their jobs still exist or if they will be called back to work. But again, this sheet is there as a reminder. The underlying cause of why the person needs help, we will be filling this out during this part of the CMS casework process. But if you were doing an in-home home visit, it just gives you something quickly to check off. This form was set up with a release for the friend to sign. We do not get written releases. If we want to discuss the friend's information with someone, we ask them, typically it's with the landlord, and we ask them during the telephone home visit if it's all right for us to discuss their situation with the landlord. So that just gives you an idea of what a case record form looks like, and it's helpful. And sometimes too, you can print it out and have it in front of you when you're doing a telephone home visit. The intake address Google map, again, was more important when we were traveling to a friend's home or to their apartment complex. But when you click on this, it will take you to Google Maps. The notes, if you have anything in particular that you want to enter, you can. Usually this is left blank. Sometimes during case intake, somebody will put a note indicating a gate code or some particular access that you need. But most of the time when you sign on, particularly during the pandemic, this is going to be exactly as you see it. It's going to be blank. So you go to your next screen, which is the visit itself. And this, first of all, asks you the type of visit. Everything we're doing right now are telephone visits. We're not having any in-home home visits. It asks you the date that you had the telephone visit. And now it's asking you to put in the amount of time that you've spent. And the way we record time here at St. Michael, it's all of the time that we have spent speaking with the client, entering information in the CMS, preparing a pledge, following up. So typically, we estimate that it's going to take either 45 minutes to an hour to do everything that needs to be done until the case is closed. So we will put 60 minutes, and since we didn't travel anywhere, 0 miles. Whoever is your secondary on this, if they're there just as a backup, oftentimes we'll put a minimal amount of time just in case they have to do something to back us up. And we also put 0 miles. You have to fill in something. These are asterisks. You have to fill in something for both of these. So you go to next. and it lets you now check to make sure that you've got all the information correct. This was more important when we were doing in-home home visits, because we'd have an opportunity to meet with the person. We might find out that their ethnicity is different, or we might learn about their marital status and find out it's different. We may find an alternative phone number. One thing I did notice, and I should have done during case intake, is in the second line, I should have put the name of the apartment complex, which let's just put here. That helps when a check request is issued or a pledge is issued to tell us how the check should be made, where they live, so that we know where it can be delivered to the leasing office. So again, the second line on the address line is often the name of the apartment complex, and it's very helpful for you to enter that. So now that you've updated whatever you've needed to update, you hit next. It goes through the same sets of checks that it did when you did the case intake. It tries to see whether or not there is an exact match in the system. And if there is, it gives you the opportunity to go to that by doing a search and checking to see who's handling that case. In this case, we don't see a match for John Doe. Usually it would be on this first line. But again, just as I showed in case intake, if you see an exact match and you want to know who's handling the case, you go to your search function, check on cases. You can put the entire last name in search to get Joe Blow, or if you don't know the exact spelling of the last name, you can put a % and do a search, and you can quickly check this case to see who it was assigned to. Sometimes you don't even need to click into the case because it was showing when you did the search who it was assigned to, but this will show you who did the home visit. It shows you who the case manager, caseworker, secondary is. So you've checked that. Now you want to go back to where you were on filling in the information from the home visit. So to back into the screen that you were in before you did the search, hit exit, takes you back to your search, hit exit again, hit exit a third time, and it will take you back to your screen. So it's still checking the client. It's just given one more opportunity for a check, since sometimes you've changed the information about the friend. You go through each of these screens, and it's now saying create a client, which again creates a permanent record of this individual with their address, so that if you ever need to contact them, you can search under client and easily find them. So you tell it to create a client. It's now giving you an opportunity to update the household. Again, if you've done a telephone home visit during the pandemic, nothing is going to be updated. You've gotten the information and it's been put in during intake. It was more important when you did in-home home visits, where you might have found out that there were other people living at the person's household. But it gives you an opportunity to either update these, and you will notice before, the only thing we really needed to do was put a name and date of birth. Now they do want to know the gender, they want to know the ethnicity. You've got more asterisks that have required information. So once you've checked that, everything looks accurate, you hit next. And it takes you to situation. This is where you have an opportunity to describe exactly what's going on with this client, so that anybody in the future goes back and reads it, they'll understand how the friend got into a particular situation and what their circumstances are. And also will show you their plan for the future, which most of the time is find employment. But again, it lets you know what the friend's plan is going forward, how the friend can get back on his feet. So in this particular case, again, I'll put my initials so somebody in the future can see that it was me that made the entry. I can put friend or friend in need abbreviation you can certainly put in there whether he has other sources of income or has other family that he can rely on. So again, you can put anything you want. Oftentimes, 1 or 2 or 3 sentences is enough. Sometimes it's more involved, so that you can get some insight as to why the person needs help, what his situation is. And again, on the plan for the future, you can put return to work. There are other screens in here. Sometimes if you scroll down, it'll show an event code. If we have a grant where we need to identify a particular case with using grant money, we will give you an event code. When we received a grant from the Archdiocesan Council, we were using the event code SVDP1. You can, again, you'll be given an event code, but rarely is that entered except if we're dealing with a grant and you want this particular friend's situation to be assisted by that grant. So you filled out the situation, you filled out the plan for the future, you hit next. This is asking you about current and past employment, current past income, and while these are asterisk, if you don't select a category, it won't require you to put in information. If you select a category, it will require you to put in information because of the asterisk. We do not typically fill this screen out, so we just click next and go to the next screen. Then you go to situation, which is, in this case, COVID-19. The asterisk, by the way, is next to all of these underlying causes. It's not next to necessarily COVID-19. So first of all, the underlying cause, this man was laid off from work because of the pandemic and he's unemployed. So those are the main underlying causes. If there are other things that you want to describe, you can click other and describe it here. There's nothing else that has a red asterisk that you need to fill out on this page. Click next. And now you're going to enter the type of assistance. So you've decided that we are going to provide a $300 rent pledge to help this person. So we will be entering add pledge request. The add check request is very seldom used. That is for an emergency where we immediately have to get a check to someone, or it's a situation where Bobby Northrup is helping somebody with utilities and we want to immediately mail a check to the utility company. But most of the time you are going to be adding a pledge request. I will come back and later on show you how we enter the value of the gift card or if there's any other in-kind contribution. So let's first enter the pledge. So this is probably the area that trips most people up. They have trouble remembering what to enter in these categories. So first of all, under category, you have a drop-down menu and it gives you a number of things to select from. You'll notice here it says housing rent, and we're going to be helping the person with their rent. So that's what you select. And the exact resource in this category is rent. It's not mortgage, it's not temporary lodging. The account holder name, whenever you are providing a pledge for rent, is always the name of the friend, because this is identifying for the apartment complex whose apartment it is. So the account holder is the friend, the account number is the apartment number. The pledge amount, we're going to pledge $300, and he's trying to get $700. So we put what his target is. The account number again, or you can just put 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, the reason that this is important is because all that we enter on this pledge will eventually roll into the check request, and will tell the treasurer how to write the check and tell the person delivering the check where to deliver it. So all of this is very important. A lot of people forget to put the account number. Again, you need the apartment number so we can tell the leasing office where the person lives, and the account holder is the name of the person. So you've completed this. On other, if there's anything else you want the treasurer to see, like sometimes if we're entering information about utilities, Bobby will write a note to me saying, please mail directly to the utility. Sometimes if there's something unique about us wanting to deliver a pledge to a particular person in the management office, in the leasing office, you can put that down here, but it's really anything that you want to tell the person that will be either writing or delivering the check. So you hit next. Now it's going to ask you vendor information. The vendor for rent is the apartment complex. The vendor is always the person who is going to be getting the check. So this is telling how the check is going to be written. And again, I know the check is not being immediately requested. It's strictly a vendor, but you still have to enter it because when it does become a check request, this is the information we need. So the category again is housing. And you first check this vendor drop-down list to see if the name of the apartment complex is there. In the past, this had not been helpful because none of our apartments were entered, but just recently we were given the ability to enter all of the apartments from our area that we have been typically dealing with. So you can do a drop-down. And, you know, let's say in this particular case, it was the Palms on Westheimer. That's all you need to do because the information about the address has already been entered. If for any reason you don't see the name on this drop-down menu, you can always click this little other vendor and type the name of the vendor in here. Have to put the address, and this is the address of the leasing office. This is sometimes different from the friend's address. So what you can sometimes do is, if you know it's the Westheimer apartments where he lives, you can go up, do a separate search on Google to find out the address for the leasing office. But this is what you need. Because again, this information is going to be used to both write the check and deliver the check. If there's a particular person you want to have this check or the pledge sent to the attention of, you can put that in there, but otherwise just put the address with the city and the state. So again, most of the time you are going to find the vendor in the drop-down menu, but if you don't, you can always use this checkbox and fill it out yourself. You then hit next, and it'll take you back to the same screen that you started with respect to assistance. Important to note, this is not submitted. It will not be submitted until you have progressed all the way to this Checks Pledges tab. So keep that in mind. We're going to add one more because we're going to be providing the person a gift card for food. Fairly quick and easy to enter this. So the resource is going to be food, gift card, food. The value, let's say we gave one Visa gift card for $50. You'll put the $50 value. You don't need to put anything else. You're welcome to add comments if you want to, but this will roll into our monthly report to show the kind of in-kind help that we've given for food. So the value is important for us. You hit next. It's going to ask vendor. You don't need to put anything for vendor for gift cards because we buy gift cards out of our treasury. And so it's not that we're going to be having to identify a particular vendor. You just click next to the next screen and it will take you back now. And you'll see that in addition to the pledge, you have a gift card that's been entered. So now let's progress to the next screen, which is attachments. And if, for example, you have a written pledge that you want to attach to this that you have saved to your computer, anything that you have saved to your computer, if it's a picture of a utility bill, if it's really anything that you think would be helpful at some point in time, you hit the upload button, it asks you to browse, and it'll give you the opportunity to browse your computer. It'll fill in the name whenever you select whatever file you're going to be uploading. And then you can describe it, put the name of the document, whether it's a rent pledge, and put comment. Sometimes I just put rent pledge twice, but anything you want to describe, but you have to put something in both of these because all of these are red asterisks. So I'm not attaching a document now. I'm just going to cancel out of this and get back to the attachments tab. You go to next, and many people don't have any attachments. Again, this is something that's helpful, particularly if you have a receipt or something that you want to have available in the case that we're audited. So now you're to the checks pledges tab. And this is typically where you are complete. You don't need to do anything further at this point, because what will happen is that the treasurer will, and first of all, notice that it says request submitted. Before it was in blue and it said that it had not been submitted. Because what happened, and I can show you very quickly on this, I'll go in as treasurer or as acting treasurer, and I'll see that there is a pledge request. And I review it, I see the amount, I see all the information that you entered, I see all the information about the friend. And at this point, I can approve the pledge. And what will happen is when you're checking your cases at some point, you go back to your assigned cases on your home screen, you go to John Doe, and instead of it saying request submitted, it now says pledged, and it's in green. And there's nothing else you need to do. What happens at this particular point is that you then have the ability to issue a check request, essentially convert the pledge into a check request. Sometimes you get an email from a charity line worker saying an apartment has called you and that they are ready for their check, that the friend has paid all of the pledge. So if you've gotten an email like that, you can go back into your case. Again, you always go to your home tab, you go to your assigned cases, you go to the pledge, click on it once, and here it takes you now, it shows you all of the information. It shows you the name of the account holder or the person who lives in the apartment number, the amount, what the target is. It shows you who it's going to be paid to. And this little box says the payment information below matches the information of the client bill in question. So all it's asking you to do is verify that its information is correct. So you check the checkbox and you hit next. It's then going to ask you to double check the vendor information, and you've looked and everything appears accurate. So again, you check the checkbox and you select done. And now it's going to ask you whether or not you want to execute. The word execute in CMS means it converts your pledge to a check request. So you're looking at everything, everything's correct. If you see something that needs to be changed that you didn't catch before, you can always edit. But assuming everything is correct, you hit execute. You will now go back to the assistance screen where to the check pledges screen, where it shows now that a pledge check request, it started as a pledge, it's now a check request, has been submitted. There's nothing else you need to do at this point in time. What will happen is that, again, the treasurer will be looking for check request, and will notice that there's one here for John Doe. The treasurer will be entering the check number, will indicate whether it was mail or delivered, if it was delivered, when it was delivered, and where it was delivered to, and will approve it. And this actually then will deduct the amount from our check register. And when you go back to your case, you will see that it's been paid. I'm not doing it now because it really will go to our check register, and I'm not looking to do that. But when you go back to your case at some point, it will say paid. Then you can go to the last screen, which is complete after it's been paid. If you want to follow up with the friend, that's fine. Most of the time, the Vincentians do not. So you just use this screen to close the case file. So you select the date that you're going to be closing it. You might add in here or anything else that you want to put that'll give insight to somebody looking at this later on. And then you hit complete. And when you hit complete, At that point, the case is closed and it's marked as a closed case. It's no longer an open active case. So that's all of the details of what you need to do when you are entering information about the telephone home visit, also when you're entering a pledge, and also when you're converting a pledge to a check request. I hope this has been helpful. If you need any further information, please give me a call or write me an email, and we can either deal with it by telephone or we can do a very quick Zoom video where we can let your screen be shown and you can actually walk through it yourself with me. Thank you.